So welcome everyone to this Wednesday night class. We'll be looking more at chapter 28. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, let me know. So the other day, yesterday actually in the morning, Lynn went over section 2 in chapter 28, reversing cause and effect. So I got to looking up cause and effect in the big red concordance because I knew it was a hot topic in the course, and certainly Wapnick did a whole giant seminar on cause and effect back in 2004, I think, which is available from the foundation. You can download it on MP3 if you want. But anyway, so I got to look at a cause and effect because I really had no idea what sections in the course talked about it the most. And I was kind of surprised when I found out. kind of the place he talks about it the most are in all 4 sections leading up and including section 3 in chapter 28. I totally missed that. He talks about cause and effect the most in the last 2 sections in chapter 27 and in the first 3 sections of chapter 28, almost more than half of what he talks about in the whole rest of A Course in Miracles. So these 5 sections are really jam-packed full of all kinds of comments and quotes and ideas about cause and effect. And I think it tends to be a slippery subject because not because it's kind of simple, there's a cause and then there's an effect, but we're so literally hell-bent on as healthy egos in reversing that and believing that God didn't make us, but we made ourselves. And then we did God a favor, we made him up too. But we made everything up. In other words, we stopped being God's effect and we decided to be first cause. So I got a little bit of echo here. I'm just looking around. Looking good. Okay, so we decided to be first cause, which means we made up ourselves. We made up an idea of a separate self. So one of the ways of looking at cause and effect, just to kind of keep it simplified, we substitute phrases for tiny mad idea of this, tiny mad idea of that. Jesus uses tiny mad idea of separation, but we can certainly talk about all kinds of things that are synonymous with separation. Tiny mad idea of guilt, tiny mad idea of fear, tiny mad idea of name any ego quality you can think of. And also the tiny mad idea of I am cause. I can be a thing that causes myself. I'm not an effect of God. I cause myself into being, my own separate autonomy. So we kind of throw out our awareness that we're an effect in that cause-effect relationship. Our Father and as God the Son, God the Father the cause, and God the Son the effect. We throw that out, our identity as a capital E effect of God, and now we're often running and believing we're first cause. Now, it sounds kind of hypothetical and intellectual, and it sort of is. However, in doing that, we trashed our true identity as capital E effect of God, which means we throw away oneness, we throw away happiness, we throw away all that good stuff we have in heaven. We threw it out the window, and then we made up as first cause a self that did not have all that stuff. We could do what God didn't do. So lesson 326, this is the lesson Lynn went over the other day, lesson 326 on page 464 in the workbook. This really addresses this whole issue that of we are capital E, effect of God, who is our first cause, who caused us. We didn't cause him. We didn't cause ourselves, but we're an effect of God. We are still God's son. And that's what this lesson 326 is talking about. So briefly, I wanted to just look at this. Let's look at this a little bit. Line 2, and I'm on page 464, lesson 326. Line 2 in paragraph 1, I am forever your effect. Father, I am forever your effect, meaning I can't be a separate autonomous self. I can't be first cause. I can only be your effect. And you forever and forever are cause. And then let's see, middle of line 5, because it is your will to have a son so like his cause that cause and its effect are indistinguishable. There's places in the Course, I think even in chapter 7, it gets kind of crazy because it sort of implies that God came first and then we came second. And then there's other places where it says that's really impossible at all. There's no place where God the Father ends and God the Son begins. But whatever it might mean to us, even intellectually, that God is first and we're second, it really helps, I think, to look at how much we don't want to believe that. We don't want to believe we're an effect, capital E effect of God. And we do all kinds of things in not so subtle ways to prove that we're not God's son. Judgment being the big one. We judge ourselves that we actually separated, and in the world, we're judging each other like crazy. And all those judgments insist, I am not effect. I am not capital E effect. I am not God's son. So he goes on back to the paragraph 1. Line 6, let me understand, Father, that I am an effect of God. And then on in line 8, in the middle, I know that you will gather your effects, meaning all of us are running around on the screen believing we caused ourselves, lowercase e. I know you will gather all your effects with the into the tranquil heaven of your love. Meaning all this seemingly runaway son stuff that we're doing, he's gonna help us let go of that, realize our true identity, and then we'll realize we're still in heaven. So that's the purpose of the Course, is to help us wake up. Well, not really wake up, but just to have that lucid dream, realizing that we're just dreaming a dream, and that's all we're doing. That this ain't real, and that our true identity, whatever it is still intact. That's the purpose of the Course. So, and then when we get to that point, that bridge back to heaven, whatever that metaphorically might look like and feel like as an experience, then we'll move back into that awareness that I am forever an effect of God. Any thoughts or questions on any of that so far? So let's do this as an opening meditation. And Lynn Corona, you want to read that lesson 326, and we'll get quiet for a little bit.
Sure. I am forever an effect of God. Father, I was created in your mind, a holy thought that never left its home. I am forever your effect, and you forever and forever are my cause. As you created me, I have remained. Where you established me, I still abide, and all your attributes abide in me, because it is your will to have a son so like his creator that cause and its effect are indistinguishable. Let me know that I am an effect of God, and so I have the power to create like you. And as it is in heaven, so on earth. Your plan I follow here, and at the end I know you will gather your effects into the tranquil heaven of your love, where earth will vanish and all separate thoughts unite in glory as the Son of God. Let us today behold earth disappear, at first transformed, and then forgiven, fade entirely into God's holy will.
Thanks, and we'll get quiet, and I'll bring us out. And gently come back. So I just wanted to, just for the record, for the video, so we know what to reference in the future. The very first place he talks about cause and effect is in chapter 2, section 5, and it's called cause and effect. But he only talks about it for about 3 little paragraphs in that section. So it's not a big, huge explanation of cause and effect. He simply points out in that section 5 in chapter 2 that God is capital C cause and we're capital E effect. That's what those 3 paragraphs are pretty much all about. Later on, he doesn't really develop that whole idea of cause and effect until chapter 14. He talks about it in section 3, throughout section 3. Lets it go for a while, picks it up in chapter 17, section 7. Chapter 21, he talks about in 2 different sections, section 2 and section 7. And then drops it again for about 5 chapters, and then picks up the idea of cause and effect in chapter 26, mostly in section 8. And then, like I say, he really just goes all out on cause and effect on these last 5 sections, including today's that we'll look at section 3. So the last 2 sections in chapter 27, the first 3 sections in chapter 28, it's all about cause and effect. It's all about our true reality in heaven as capital E effect of God, capital C cause, and it's about how the ego distorted that and twisted it and made us think that what we're feeling is a result of what's going on as stick figures in the dream. That's the cause of our feelings. That's the cause of our lack of peace. That's the cause of us not having a sense that we're already joined. That we're so identified with bodies and all this drama between bodies that we really actually believe that's the source. That's the cause of our pain. And we have no idea we have a mind, much less we have a wrong mind where all this is taking place and then being projected on the world. So in the old days, when Ken was doing the chart, back in Roscoe. And he did it in kind of different ways. And one of the ways that Ken did the chart, one of the classes I went to and one of the seminars I went to in Roscoe, was he presented the chart as tracks, almost like railroad tracks, being laid out of heaven. And so you might want to be on speaker view for a while if you know how to do that, just so you can see this a little bit better. But he showed us our true identity in heaven, where God was capital C cause, and we were capital E, the effect, as one son of God. And then when we stepped outside the first railroad track that we laid down, the first step we took to begin to have a different experience other than realizing we were capital E effect in heaven, was this tiny mad idea that we could be first cause, that we could make up something else, that we could be a God unto our own right. That was the first railroad track we laid down. That was the first step out of heaven. Then the second step was we identified and made up a thing that could be separate and autonomous. Course calls that the ego. So that was the next track that we laid down. The next step out of heaven is we identified with ourselves as an ego, a thing separate from our Father, a thing often running on its own as a cause of everything that could happen to it. And then the next step we took, we started making up the story. We laid down another railroad track away from heaven. And we started this story of sin, then laid down another track, a story about guilt, laid down another track, a story about fear. And all this seemed, certainly for teaching purposes, it seems pretty linear. It seems like step one was tiny mad idea. Step two was identifying with the ego. Step three was making up this story of sin, 4, guilt, 5, fear. Actually, it all happened at once. Actually, it didn't happen at all. So that's the good news from the Holy Spirit's point of view. That's the really bad news from the ego's point of view. There ain't no tracks. There ain't no steps out of heaven. This is all just done, made up. But for teaching purposes, this is what we think we did. Another way of looking at these railroad tracks that Ken will actually, or that Jesus and Ken both get into in section 3 of chapter 28 in this agreement to join, is this idea of a ladder. That we set up this ladder, and each step of the way we took another step into hell. And ironically enough, each step along the way, and getting all the way down to where we seemingly took the step out of our minds. We were out of our minds, and we made up a world, and then we made up a bunch of bodies. And then the ultimate thing was we identified individually, seemingly, with one of those bodies, my body. So, I mean, the buck kind of stops here, but this is bottom of the ladder stuff. We couldn't go any lower. So one way of looking at these different steps is that just underneath the surface, each one of these steps became a cause for the next step. So the tiny mad idea became a cause for the ego. Then the ego became a cause of making up the story of sin, guilt, and fear. So in a sense, each of these steps became the cause for the effect of the next step, if you want to look at it that way. Every step on the ladder in the descent into hell was caused by the previous step. And then we conveniently forgot there was a previous step, especially this one. We totally forgot we had a mind when we took this step seemingly out of our mind into a world of form with the world and bodies, and me specifically identifying with my body. We totally forgot about this step right here, that there is this secret dream where these first 5 steps happened. and continue to happen and are being reflected on the world stream, and all this drama going on between me, my body, and your body. So it's kind of a linear way to look at it. And then Jesus even uses that in section 3. He'll talk about we need to retrace our steps back up the ladder, back up this railroad track, and retrace our steps that we took to get to here believing in this. In a simplistic way, one of the first big steps we take is maybe I'm not upset for the reason I think. Maybe it's got nothing to do with the world and bodies, and especially my body relating to all this stuff. Maybe there's something else going on inside. And then we begin to retrace our steps back through the wrong mind. Now, in practice, it doesn't really feel like that, or at least I don't think it does for me anyway. Because it seems like when I go back to the wrong mind, it's just a mess in there. It's sin, guilt, and fear all over the place. It doesn't seem like one led to another one. but they're, just for teaching purposes, we do it as kind of a structure. Like when I go back to the wrong mind, I'm not thinking, well, I'm at the fear level now, I got to move back up into the guilt level. Usually it's such a mess in there, it's like I got to deal with them all at once. and then be willing to let all that go. That's the second step. I could see peace instead of all of this mess. Instead of all of these seeming steps I took to leave heaven and prove to myself I could pull it off and become first cause. So anything about any of that so far?
Tim, there was one place long ago, it was a chart of Ken's, I guess he abandoned it, but where he called this the descent of the Son of God, and used the word devolution instead of evolution. The devolution of the Son of God, or the descent.
Yeah. And so, and in that sense, the evolution is moving back up the ladder.
Yeah.
In our awareness. It's just basically expanding our awareness and literally accepting what's going on, what we actually believe and what we actually did to prove to ourselves we're here as bodies reacting to other bodies. So you can see there's a lot of work. We could have just stayed in heaven and had a good time. But no. We had to lay the first track down, then the second track, and then the third track, fourth track, fifth track, and then we had to get to here and make up a whole world to cover up the whole secret dream we were having. So, and that's what he's talking about, especially in these 5 sections. We'll look at some of the pieces from previous sections on this whole cause and effect idea. So let's do it. And going back to section 7 on chapter 27, I'm on page 582. And once again, I totally missed this whole cause and effect thing. And I've been presenting the classes on this stuff. I didn't see it was a major theme running through this till maybe last night. So Jesus always has surprises for us along the way. So in chapter 27, page 582, paragraph 3, you wonder how I missed this stuff. He says, the reasoning by which the world is made, okay, on which it rests, by which the world is maintained, is simply this: you are the cause of what I do. Meaning I took the whole cause and effect thing, and I'm saying the reason I'm not at peace is because of what you did to me. You're the cause of what I do. You're the cause of how I feel. What you did to me, to my body, to my personality, is because of what you did or didn't do to me. And your presence justifies my wrath. And you exist and think apart from me. While you attack, I must be innocent, and what I suffer from is your attack. And then if you drop down to paragraph 7, let's see. line 4. Next page, 583, paragraph 7, line 4. Of one thing you were sure, of all the many causes, of all the many causes and things that have an effect, of all the many causes you perceived as bringing pain and suffering to you, those were the effects. Your guilt was not among them, nor did you anyway request them for yourself. This is how all illusions came about. The one who makes them up, i.e. me, i.e. us, the one who makes these things up does not see himself as making them. And the reality doesn't, it seems like our reality as bodies does not depend on this, on us. Line 8, whatever cause they seem to have seems to be something quite apart from us, seems to be something else causing us pain, causing us suffering, causing us lack of peace. And what he sees is separate from his mind. And then paragraph 14, there's more places all through here, but paragraph 14, let's see on the next page, line 4. No, actually, I guess it's, oh yeah, it's paragraph 11. Paragraph 11, line 4, the gap between reality and dreams lies not between the dreaming of the world and what you dream in secret. They are one. The dreaming of the world is but a part of your own dream you gave away and saw it as if it were its start and ending both. The world's dream. Yet was it, the world's dream, started by your secret dream, which you do not perceive, although it caused the part you see. And you don't doubt that's real. How could you doubt it? How could you doubt that the world is what's causing the pain while you lie asleep and dream in secret that its cause, meaning sin, the secret dream, is real, without ever admitting that's what's going on? So cause and effect works here between the secret dream we're having about identifying as an ego, making up the story of sin, guilt, and fear, and then all that being projected onto the world's dream. Cause and effect works here too. And yet we got ourselves convinced that the reason we're feeling pain has nothing to do with us at all. It's what the world is doing to me. It's what other bodies are doing to me. They're the cause of my pain. And I'm just feeling the effects of that. And then, let's see, page 586, paragraph 5. How willing are you to escape all these effects, this cause and effect thing that we've set up, of all the dreams the world has ever had that are based on this secret dream? Is it really your wish to let no dream appear to be the cause of what it is you do? Then let us merely look upon the dream's beginning, the cause of this world's dream. Let's look at this secret dream that we're having that's causing us to have all this stuff. Let us merely look upon the dream's beginning, for the part you see, the world's dream, is but the second part, whose cause lies in the first, in the secret dream. No one is asleep and dreaming, and the world remembers his attack upon himself in the secret dream. And the attack upon himself he's talking about is, we trashed capital E effect. That was the attack. We threw our identity as capital E effect of God out the window, and we were off and running, believing we were first cause. And then rather than admit we did something that's stupid, we project it onto a world and we say, nah, I didn't do it. You're the cause. You're what's robbing me of my peace. I didn't make this whole thing up. And then let's see, paragraph 9 on the next page. In gentle laughter does the Holy Spirit perceive the cause, He knows what the secret dream is. He knows it's all being projected onto the world and looks not to its effects. He knows the world's got nothing to do with being responsible for the way we feel, that we're choosing all this stuff. How else could he correct your error who have overlooked the cause entirely? We overlooked the secret dream. Even in the, all this mess that we made up, we went and made the secret dream secret so we wouldn't know we're responsible, that we initially made ourselves first cause. And then rather than take a responsibility for that, we say, no, I'm not first cause. You're the one that's causing me pain. You're the cause, not me. Look what my parents did to me. Look what my boss did to me. Look what traffic did to me. Look what COVID did to me. Look what did to me. So line 3, he bids you bring each terrible, the Holy Spirit bids you bring each terrible effect, all this crazy pain we're feeling in the world, to him, that you may look together on its foolish cause, the secret dream, where I made myself first cause, and laugh with him a while. You judge effects. You judge the way you feel, and then you point the finger at the world and say they're responsible. You judge effects, but he has judged their cause. Meaning he's looked at the secret dream and he's going to remind us it's all made up. You can't be first cause. You're God's capital E effect. You can't cause a secret dream and then project it onto a world that's just a mirror of the secret dream. I mean, you can think you did. We certainly are pretty pretty adamant that we believe this is real sometimes, and that what's being done to me is coming from something external to myself. Line 4, you judge effects, but he has judged their cause, meaning he knows the secret dream's all made up. And by his judgment are effects removed. Perhaps you come in tears, but hear him say, my brother, holy son of God, behold your idle dream in which this could never, ever occur. Because it's all based on nothing. And moving into chapter 28, let's see, paragraph 1, page 589, paragraph 1, and I'm on line 8. The miracle simply shows us the past is gone, and what has truly gone has no effects. It pulls the rug on all this secret dream being projected onto the world stream. If this secret dream is made up, the cause is ridiculous. It just doesn't exist. We can't be first cause. We can't make up a secret dream where we're God, basically, and we can do anything we want. The miracle simply shows the past is gone, and what truly has gone has no effects at all. Remembering a cause can simply produce illusions of its presence, not real effects. Meaning, what's going on is we took the secret dream and it's being projected on the world. All of it's made up, and it doesn't have any real effects at all. All the effects of guilt, paragraph 2, all the effects of guilt, all the effects of sin, all the effects of fear, all the effects of the ego being projected onto the world as effects are here no more. Guilt is over. In its passing, when its consequences, another word for effects, consequences, in its passing of guilt, when we realize that guilt is all made up, we let it go. In passing went guilt's consequences, left without a cause. Why would you then cling to guilt in memory if you did not desire its effects? We value guilt. We value being able to see guilt in the world because it preserves our identity that we're first cause, that we can make up a dream and actually pull this off. And let's see. let's look at paragraph 9. Yeah, paragraph 9 on page 591. What you remember never was, meaning all the stuff we're hanging on to from the past that we made up to believe that we were actually violated, that we were actually betrayed, that people actually let us down. What you remember never was. It came from causelessness, the secret dream, the place where we thought we were first cause. It came from causelessness, which you confused with cause. We thought it was possible. It can deserve only laughter when you learn you have remembered consequences, effects that were really causeless and could never be real effects. The miracle reminds you of a capital C cause forever present, our Father, his identity, which proves our identity, perfectly untouched by time and interference. Never change from what it is, capital C cause. And we are its effect, as changeless and as perfect as itself. Its memory does not lie in the past nor waits in the future. And then dropping down to paragraph 10, line 2, however, you would deny him his effects, yet have they never been denied. It's impossible to deny his effects. We would try, and we did try, to deny that we were his son. We made all this up to believe it. There was no time in which his son could be condemned for what was causeless and against his will. We couldn't pull this off. And then let's see, line 8, you need no healing to be healed. In quietness, see in the miracle a blessing and allowing cause, God our Father, to have its own effects, us. In that beautiful section, for they will come, that's what he's talking about. He used nicer words there, not cause and effect. For they will come, God the Father and our true identity as our one true self. And later on in section 3, he'll call them the guest. We'll clear a space for the guest, capital G guest, God the Father and God the Son, our remembrance of who we truly are, to come back to the empty space when we let go of all the secret dream stuff. So anything about any of that? Are you still confused, Carol? Just say no. Just say no. Like Nancy Reagan said, just say no. You're not confused. Good. Okay, thanks.
Bruce had something too.
Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and with your chart, I was kind of thinking about the ideas leave not their source and how it really relates beautifully to this, and really is kind of another way of expressing it. And then I was thinking about above the line in your chart, that the truth of the cause and effect, has never changed and could never change, but because the ego is trying to drive us out of our minds. It basically says let's erase everything in the secret dream and hide that, and so if we had like a big arrow that kind of grouped everything in the top in the secret dream and had an arrow going around and saying, okay, that's now I've moved my identity down to below that lower line to a body, then what in the absence of all that other stuff, the sin, guilt, fear, and the the stuff in that block, it says, okay, well, now what do I do to make up a cause and effect story? Well, I gotta take the world and other bodies and then make those the cause. Basically draw a little arrow from the world and other bodies to my body, and so now it's like, oh, well, that seems to fit the ego paradigm of now I'm the effect of the world and other bodies. But I was just trying to do a little visual with arrows there to show how ego might basically distort the chart and take what all of that, of course, never happened below the upper line, but since we in the outer shield of oblivion, we said, okay, the mind doesn't exist. So now how do we make up another story that fits? And then below that line, that lower line, that's it seems like that's the story that it keeps telling over and over again to keep us mindless and keep us from looking at the mind. Yeah. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, like one of the huge themes in chapter 27 was the wish to be unfairly treated so that I can prove your cause. I can prove I didn't make this up, but you caused me to feel this way. And totally deny I was the cause. Stephen?
Now, good luck with me understanding what I'm saying, so I hope y'all can. Was the Son of God ever asleep, even for a tiny tick of time? Just, first question.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my first thought is, of course, yes, had to be. Because, into eternity, there crept a tiny mad idea at which Son of God remembered not to laugh. In that particular, at that point, there, Son of God had to be awake to remember not to laugh, and seemed to be the cause of the secret dream. That's my first. Does that sound okay?
Well, except there was a line that in parentheses there where Jesus said, "I'm just teasing." There was no tiny mad idea. I'm just messing with you. But they took that out because he was trying to clarify that we thought we did it.
Well, please excuse me for being serious. I was just trying to do that. Okay, next question. All right. Okay, so we got God cause, and then we have Son of God effect, capital E. That seems to be a sequence. Is it?
Yeah, and once again, if it never happened, not really, but I mean, it certainly feels like a sequence from our point of view. And certainly Jesus uses that sense of sequence to help us get back to moving back up through this seeming ladder, evolving in our awareness to realize what we really tried to do, and it didn't happen at all.
Oh, cool. This is very helpful for me. One more. He talks about consequences. And, first the sequence and then the consequence, to use Wapnick's former term and Lynn's term to die, then the devolution. So it seems like even though it didn't happen, and I'm glad Jesus says in here a bunch of times, we'll never understand this, because I'm at that point right now. Because the way it seems, there's sequence, there's consequences. The Son of God was asleep for that what seemed like an incident, and then you have to put a proviso over that it never happened.
Yeah, and so the good news is we don't have to go around swearing it didn't happen. Well,
Good.
obviously, walking around as a body, we think it did. So he's not asking us to admit to ourselves we're totally crazy, even though we are, but he's asking us to at least start with our judgments about the other guy, making him the cause of our suffering, making him first cause. That's the first step of forgiveness. I think I'm upset for the reason I think you caused it. And I start with that, and I ask myself, if that's not true, am I willing to see something else going on? So I don't have to jump right to all this is made up and none of this ever happened. And then when I go through the second step of forgiveness, which is I begin to let up on believing I actually pulled off the separation, once again with Jesus's help. And I stopped judging myself for believing I did separate. Then what's left in the third step is some experience, which he describes in the manual. We'll have an experience where it won't matter about that tiny tick of time at all. It won't matter to us how could the impossible ever have happened, even for a blip, even for a nanosecond.
Immensely helpful for me. Thank you so much.
That won't bother us anymore. So when you get there, let me know. We'll celebrate. We'll celebrate together.
Right. I'll be back in a few weeks.
All right. Abe?
Yeah, so I'm wondering about the pronoun you here. I guess the you that is referring to is the decision-making mind is the you is referring to, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful to remind myself of that. Like whenever Jesus is talking, the you, it's always addressing me in my mind, kind of stepping outside of this as a decision maker and looking at what I chose, looking at that I did choose the ego, looking at I did make up a story of sin, guilt, and fear. He's not addressing me as a stick figure, as a body in the world. Otherwise, none of this would make any sense. But yeah, it's good to remind myself of that. Two things. He's always addressing me as the decision maker in my mind, and I have a choice between the ego and the Holy Spirit. And also, he's never addressing me as a stick figure. He's never talking about behavior. Those two things I always have to remind myself of. He's not talking to Tim as Tim in the world. He's not talking about Tim's behavior in the world. He's talking about this internal part of us that's making all this stuff up and believing it. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Abe. Anybody? So let's look at where Lynn left off yesterday. I didn't realize she didn't do paragraphs 9, 10, 11 because she was afraid she didn't understand them. So she gave me the job of figuring them out. Imagine that. and she's smiling now too. She's not even denying all the face of innocence. So anyway, paragraph 9. And once again, this is all cause and effect stuff. So when he says this is the separation's final step, he's talking about this, bottom of the ladder, me and my body. What was that movie with Jim Carrey? Me, myself, and I. Tim's body, Tim's personality, what Tim thinks he is, what Tim thinks you are. Me, myself, and I. This is where the buck stopped, where the last step of the ladder was. And then he says, this is where we start. We admit we're in this place, and I'm seeing everything from this personal point of view. So this is the separation's final step, with which salvation, which proceeds to go the other way, begins. Meaning Jesus is going to help us begin to move from here back up. You don't want to skip steps. You want to start where you think you are. That's all that sentence means. And then he goes, this final step is an effect of what has gone before. Meaning all this happened, which led me to believing I'm a body, separate from your body, and look what your body's doing to mine. This is all the stuff that went before. So I start where I think I'm at. I think I'm a body, and I feel like I'm upset for the reason I think. So the final step is an effect of what has gone before, now appearing as if it's a cause, meaning all this stuff that is being done to my poor body, that's what I think is going on. Not all these previous steps that I manufactured to get here. I think it's what you're doing to me. So the miracle then is the first step in giving back to cause, in this case, the mind, the function of causation and not effect. So it's kind of a somewhat Shakespearean way of saying, I think the reason I'm upset is because of what you did. And now I'm going to begin to admit the possibility that maybe I'm not upset for the reason I think, and on some level, maybe this is all just a reflection of something going on inside of me. That maybe I'm the one that trashed innocence, not you. And maybe I'm the one that pushed God away, not you. And maybe I'm the one that needs to take responsibility for what I did internally, not you. So I'm giving back to the mind some responsibility here. I'm giving back to the mind the function of causation. Maybe I did this as a wrong mind. Not effect. The way I'm feeling is not an effect of what's being done to me in the world. For this confusion has produced the dream, and meaning the world's dream, and while it lasts, will wakening be feared, nor will the call to wakening be heard. We won't even realize we're being called to wake up, because it seems to be the call to fear. Well, we don't want to wake up because that if I pull the rug on this, which is causing this, I don't have no separate identity anymore. Painful as it is, preserving the separate identity, we got a lot invested in it. We worked real hard at getting Stephen to believe he's actually here. And to actually believe there was a tiny tick of time where I could actually pull this off. And then we made up a whole universe to reinforce that thought. So we worked really hard at this. We're not so game about, certainly from an ego point of view, about giving this up, because it's going to pull the rug on our whole separate identity as first cause. I caused me. I caused separation. I caused the thing that could be separate. So, yeah. And then paragraph 10, like every lesson the Holy Spirit requests that we learned, he's requesting, he's not demanding it, but we might feel better if we learn a few of his lessons here. Like every lesson the Holy Spirit requests you learn, the miracle is clear, believe it or not. It's not the other guy, it's you, and it's not you as a body, it's you internally. That's clear, we just don't want to see that and believe it. And the miracle is waking up to that. So line 2, the miracle demonstrates what the Holy Spirit would have you learn and shows you its effects are what you really want. The effects from his lesson, the effects of feeling peaceful, the effects of not being crazy about a tiny tick of time. I mean, all that stuff won't bother us anymore. Guilt won't bother us, fear won't bother us, tiny ticks of time won't bother us. We'll just be okay no matter what happens. So that's the effects that the Holy Spirit will give us. Line 3, in the Holy Spirit's forgiving dreams are the effects of yours undone. All these steps that we took to actually believe I'm a body in the world and is persecuted, and I'm upset for the reason I think, all those effects will be undone as we begin to move back up this ladder. Let's see. And hated enemies are now perceived as friends with merciful intent, in spite of what they're doing in time and space. I mean, they'll probably still be doing some pretty nasty stuff, even to my body down here as a body. But what's that got to do with anything if this is coming from this and all this is made up? And the Holy Spirit will actually show me all that, if I let him walk me back through these steps of how I believe I got here. And hated enemies perceived as friends with merciful intent. I mean, wouldn't that be nice, depending on what side of the political fence you're on, to see the other side? All those hated enemies are now perceived differently as friends with merciful intent, in spite of what they do or don't do. Their enmity is seen as causeless now because they did not make it. We did. Individually, internally, we made this up to react to it and blame them for it. And say they're first cause, not me. I didn't do it. And then line 5, and you can accept the role of maker of their hate because you see that it has no effects. Well, yeah, if I let the Holy Spirit show me that. That my innocence and your innocence is still intact. That's the effect the Holy Spirit will show us when we walk through this process of forgiveness, when we're willing to move back up through these steps with him. And then line 6, now are you freed from this much of the dream? The world is now neutral, and the bodies that still seem to move about as separate things need not be feared. And so they're not really sick. They're not really doing terrible things to each other. They're just puppets in a puppet show. Puppets are neutral. We're the ones that make up stories about them and how they deal with the puppet that I'm identifying with. Paragraph 11, the miracle returns the cause of fear to you who made it. But it also shows that having no effects, it can't really be a cause. That's what when he says a cause is a cause because it has serious real effects. But if the effects aren't real, even though we think they're real, that means the cause isn't real either. So to actually have that experience, that I'm not upset for the reason I think, and I begin to move back up this ladder, back to what I'm really upset about. And then I can see beyond that too, that I'm upset about nothing internally. Then I realize that all these effects have no cause at all. I can't be a separate self. I still am, and you still are, capital E effect of God. Any about that? You okay, Bruce? Oh, go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, it seems to me that Holy Spirit, or we'll say Jesus, he's talking to the wrong-minded, terrified ego, he's like holding himself hostage, the ego, and he's holed up with an arsenal of weapons, and Holy Spirit's trying to talk him out. Jesus trying to talk him out, and one of the things that he does that I think is so masterful, Jesus, is that in so many paragraphs he says, this is nothing horrendous or horrific. Actually, this is cause for laughter. That he's diffusing it. This person who is just so terrified.
Yeah, I guess I would add that he's not really addressing us as egos, but he's addressing us as, going back to what Abe was saying, as a decision maker who thinks he's an ego. That we made up this huge game of terror, of sin, guilt, and fear, and it's just a game. And we think we're an actual player in some really real stuff that doesn't seem like a dream at all. Doesn't seem like a game at all.
High stakes danger. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Maya. Anybody? Stephen?
Yeah, I'm still above the line with this. Cause, capital C, and effect, capital E, that is separation.
No.
No? What? No, Father, Son.
It is on the board. There's a word over here and there's a word over there.
I mean, isn't that where we learned it? If God would have just kept on going with the perfection and the extension and the expansion and the light and the love, if he hadn't come up with the Son of God thing, we'd all still be together, right? Even though there is no together.
It's his fault. I've been trying to tell you it's his fault.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not that I don't love him anyway. I mean, I love him the same way. It's just, that's two things. Cause and effect are two things.
Look at all the words in this book. There's a zillion. I don't know how many words are in this book. It's 1,300 pages. God knows how many separate things are in this book.
We're not talking about the book. We're talking about heaven here.
We're talking about heaven now. Everything above that line.
Yeah, I'll let this go. I was just throwing that out. Thank you. It's his fault.
I hear you. Lynn?
Just in response to that, I thought it says somewhere that cause and effect are the same, but so that they aren't separate. That's a thing that we do to explain what is, because we can't really explain it. So That's one thing. But what I wanted to say was I really like this chart. I was listening to one of Ken's talks this morning, and he talked about the purpose of the world being to accept responsibility for the tiny mad idea and the secret dream. And it's the first time I had heard, I've always seen everything below that dotted line as the place of punishment and just hell. But as I sat with that idea of accepting not responsibility, it's different than taking responsibility is what I thought was my, what I had to do. But when I accept it, all of a sudden, I'm not fighting the tiny man. I'm not fighting my body. I'm not fighting anybody else's body. I'm not fighting what's going on. I'm accepting that I am thinking incorrectly. And then all of a sudden, I'm in that space where, oh, well, gosh, I would really like to learn how to see peace instead of whatever I'm creating in my mind. And so, and seeing the way this kind of progression, it doesn't seem so difficult to go from below the dotted line is that first step. I'm never upset for the reason I think. And then above it, I could see peace instead of that. And I'm very clear that with all that, like you say, that morass going on in my head, I need another perception. And so then it becomes a simple thing to ask that part of my mind that does know another way. So I just feel this whole cause and effect thing, the way we've been progressing through it is just making all of that so clear. And that sense of my innocence is just ringing out loud and clear, because you have a bad idea, a false idea, and nothing but problems can come from that. But you get, you recognize you've got a wrong idea and you go, oh, there is another idea. And then everything that comes from that other idea is healing. I mean, it's just the simplicity of it, I guess, is just really astounding to me today. So thank you. Appreciate the lesson.
Good. Did you hear that, Stephen? That was good. That's good. Aris and then Lisa.
Yeah, this I was stuck back in paragraph 10, number 5, and you can accept the role of maker of their hate. That kind of hit me really strong. Like if I was going to be in a play and I would hold this would be my role. I'm the hate maker. And in going through listening to Ken's CDs and stuff, something's happening, that the merging of those 3 steps with me, of forgiveness, because then when I see, okay, I'm a hate maker, but I'm making the hate that I see. So I can just slide back into my mind. And the minute I do, at the same moment, if I'm doing that, at that moment, I'm with Spirit. I don't even have to ask Holy Spirit. It's like, I'm just trying to say it's all one step in one way. When we go back away from that, when I back away from that self-hatred, then, because then it becomes self-hatred, then there's this really soft, gentle smile that I feel, that forgiveness, that's what I'm feeling. And it's not 3 steps. It is 3 steps, but it's all in one. You know what I'm saying? Thank you.
Thanks, Aris. Yeah, that sentence jumped out at me too. And then the second part of that sentence is, admitting I'm a hate maker is terrible. However, when Jesus shows me it's that I've made it all up, it has no effects, then I don't have to hate myself anymore. He didn't leave. I mean, he knows I think I made myself a hate maker, but he knows I couldn't do it. And so he didn't leave. He didn't go anywhere. He's still here loving me in this moment.
Maybe that's part of what the whole cause and effect being one all of a sudden, it may have something to do with that.
And the cause being, he loves me because I can't make
The minute I
myself
let go of that, that title for myself.
identity as a hate maker, right? Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, thanks, Reese. Lisa?
Tim, I'm struggling with line number 1 of paragraph 11, because it says the miracle returns the cause of fear to you who made it. And I know you just covered this, but I'm struggling because when I think of the miracle, I think of, okay, it's a shift in perception from separation to oneness. And so when I read this, the miracle returns the cause of fear to you. I, I'm not getting that. It's just, it's a dissonant concept. I just can't
Right.
understand that.
So it's not helpful if that's all it does. I mean,
No.
that's the second step of forgiveness. So there's the third one's still coming. So yeah, I made up fear, but going back to what Reese says, third step of forgiveness is, oh, it is made up. It had no effect at all. So the second step of forgiveness, the second step of the miracle, is it returns the cause back to me as a decision maker, like Abe was talking about. And I realize I'm the one that's making this up. And then the third step is, oh, Jesus shows me it's had no effect at all on you or me.
Okay, I got it.
So just keep going. Don't stop there. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Kathy?
Yeah, I just wanted to address what Stephen said. What always helped me, maybe this will help, maybe not, but what has always helped me about the God and I are one, you know, if cause is a separate body and effect is a separate body, then yeah, there's separation. But when we consider that God is spirit and his son is spirit, there's no place that God ends and spirit and his son begins. So, you know, that's always helped me. Maybe it will, maybe it not. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I like that line too. It's in the workbook. That helps me. We'll see if it helps Stephen, but it helps you and I, Kathy. So that's 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Becca.
Yeah, I was gonna, well, Stephen, I want to address 2 things you said actually. So because I struggle with the same 2 things. So the idea of cause and effect, it really helped me when Bruce was talking about ideas leave not their source, to remember that we are an idea in the mind of God. That's our true identity. That always really helps me. And then the other thing was on the idea of the tiny tick of time. I think about, I really like fairy tales and mythology. So I think about the myth or the fairy tale of Sleeping Beauty, right? So she falls asleep and then there's a spell cast and everything else falls asleep around her. And so when they all wake up, well, who cares how much time passed? It's all just right there. So
Ooh,
anyway,
that's good.
I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Very good. And then you throw in Prince Charming and we're off and running.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
guess.
Yeah, we didn't really need that part, but yeah, that's good. Kathy?
Well, I just want to say that I consider Prince Charming then to be Jesus or Holy Spirit.
Ooh, very good.
He awakes me with his kiss.
Oh, that's good. Oh, good. All right, very good. So I think there's a lot of course, there's good stuff in every section, but we'll get to section 3 tomorrow at noon if you have time. Drop on in, and because the first half of section 3, the agreement to join, is cause and effect again, and then the second half is this giant feast. It's a big party we're all going to have when all this is settled down and all this good stuff replaces all these different tracks. We got silver miracles happening. We got golden dreams of happiness. We got an unlimited feast of love. I mean, it gets really good in the second part of section 3. So if you can, be sure to come tomorrow at noon and we'll get into that. I just wanted to finish up these paragraphs, see how far I got. Paragraph 11. And then, let's see. Line 4, paragraph 11, line 4. He says, thus is the body healed by miracles because they show the mind, not the body, made sickness. One way of looking at sickness is just believing we're a body, period, is sick. It's just not true. It's not a real sick, but it's just the way we believe in sickness, is believing I'm a body, period. And it's not the mind making all this stuff up. So it's the mind really is sick because it believes it can do this stuff. And then the next breath is, it is making it all up, so it's not real either. The mind can't be sick even though it's trying to be sick. So that's what he's saying in these sentences. The mind made sickness and employed the poor body to be a victim or effect of what the mind made. Yet half the lesson will not teach the whole. Meaning, kind of going back to what Lisa was saying, we'll begin to realize we're responsible for this stuff, but that's half the lesson. The other part is that we made it all up, that those effects aren't real. So, yet half the lesson will not teach the whole. The miracle is useless if you learn that the body can be healed, for this is not the lesson it was sent to teach. The lesson is the mind was sick. Not really, but we thought it could be. The lesson is the mind was sick that thought the body could be sick, projecting the mind's guilt caused nothing and had no effects. Once again, when we realize it has no effects, we won't take ourselves seriously as a hate maker, as this thing that did this terrible thing to God and to ourselves. And then paragraph 12 is the closing. Len, you want to read that and we'll get quiet for a little bit? This is where he starts talking about the ladder. And he picks up the ladder again in section 3, which we'll get to tomorrow.
This world is full of miracles. They stand in shining silence next to every dream of pain and suffering, of sin and guilt. They are the dream's alternative, the choice to be the dreamer, rather than deny the active role in making up the dream. They are the glad effects of taking back the consequences of sickness to its cause. The body is released because the mind acknowledges this is not done to me, but I am doing this. And thus the mind is free to make another choice instead. Beginning here, salvation will proceed to change the course of every step in the descent to separation until all the steps have been retraced, the ladder gone, and all the dreaming of the world undone.
Yay, and we'll get quiet for a little bit. And gently Gently. Big party tomorrow at noon. Don't miss it if you can. If you can, don't miss it. We'll be happy. Guests are coming. Big guests. God, our true self. They're giving out gold and silver all over the place. A big feast. Look out.
Yay.
Any V8 juice?
What's that? What's that, Bruce?
Any V8 juice?
Oh, whatever you want. It's
Great
like
meeting.
spending your life. All the pies you can eat and you won't gain weight.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Tim. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lynn.
Thank
Great
you.
meeting.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tim.
everybody.
Everybody.
Love you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Bye.